I know there's been many tutorials on working with pen tools and nodes and that sort of thing, but I just like to share what I think about them and how I use them. In the previous programs that I used to avoid the pen tool because it felt a little bit clumsy. You clicked and it pulled out curves and all that sort of thing. With Designer, it is so intuitive and I love working with it. It's my go-to tool. But let me just show you whether you are going to be using it on an existing photo that you want to kind of cut out, or you are just using it to design a shape. It's worthwhile knowing the pen and the node tool. Now I'm going to create a new document, just a blank document. I'm not going to be spending my time on the pen tool with every bit of the context menu areas here on top. I'm literally going to just be using the pen tool to pull out a structure, and then I will go more onto the node tool and talk about the node tool. But I'm going to do a zigzag pattern. Before I click here, I'm going to just check that there the color is black, the outline. I'm going to just make the fill 0. And to the stroke, let me just pull this out to something that we can see along the way. So I'm going to click there, sort of a zigzag pattern. Okay, so that is just click and let go. If I had to click and not let go of the mouse and move it, it will drop a curved like the conventional Bezier. Let me show you here. If I do that, okay, and if I do that again, just one single click. Wherever I click once, there will be a what we call a sharp node, and where I click and drag, there will be a curved node. Okay, so I'm going to move out of the pen tool now. That's about all I wanted to show on the pen tool. I'll just go here and slightly thicken it. If I look here at the edges, if they're round, these curves are round here, that's where you can go into the stroke and modify it there. But I'll just show you quickly, just so that while we edit, you understand even these little stroke callouts here. So this is a line, that the line, the actual stroke will be aligned towards the outside and inside of the pen tool that you've just used now. If I click here, it will show to the inside. You'll just see the shift here. Have we clicked there? Let's see. Okay, nothing's happening. Have I selected this area? Okay. Maybe it's not too obvious. Let's see. Okay, that's quite weird. It usually should shift to the outside and the inside. Oh, okay. My apology on that, and it's good that I did it this way. If this area is not closed, if it's not closed off, let me just show you. If I do go and close it off, then these stroke areas apply. I'm going to just click there and close this off. Okay, so it should apply now. If I click here, there we go. So it goes to the inside, and there it shifts to the outside. And there it's back into the center. Okay, so that was just something that I picked up now. I didn't think about it. So if it's enclosed area, it is then able to do an inside or the outside, because you don't close the kind of loop area of the line that you're drawing. It doesn't know what is inside and what is outside. It cannot make that decision on its own. So once you close the loop, it knows this is towards the inside and outside. Okay, that makes sense. And then, of course, if you, let's just go Control Z, just so that we break that area and just see if these areas work. So here you'll have when there's a joint area between two. Let's see. Can you see that forming a different area? That forming a... So here the joints would be a round joint, a bevel joint, and a miter joint. And these area caps here is just that this point would end before the area. If we look here, it's ending. If you look at that picture, it's very similar. If you go here, this node will move right to the edge, and it will become square off here. Let's look at that. There we go. And this one will just move the node a little bit back if we click there. Okay, so those are the pictures that show you what happens with the strokes. So for this, we're just going to sort of sharpen the edges there, and this will give you the idea of the joints there. So we're going to go with this sharp edge here, which is referred to as a miter. Now when we talk about miter, it's the edge of where two lines join each other, and here you can see there's a miter adjustment. So this miter is at 1.5. Let's see if we adjust it up to say 5, what happens over here. Press enter. Okay, can you see there it alters that and gets a nice sharp point. So routinely, if I'm working with sharp edges, I just pop this up to 5, but then you could still modify it. If you have this area, you see that's what happens still. You still have sort of control there. So if you want to get the sharp edge and you want it to be a point there, you can adjust this miter. Okay, so we've got the lines now. Now let's get into the nodes. So I'm going to just go to the node tool, which is A. So there's 3 shortcuts you can remember. A for the node tool, C for the corner tool, which is this one here, and the additional one after version 1.7 of Designer, if you pop this down, is the transformation tool. And the transformation tool shortcut is F. Now you'll see the effect when you're working on the node itself. So I'm going to just go to the A, or I can just click on the node tool. So I'm in this area here. So first of all, before we talk about these 3 features here, I'm going to just talk about the context menu here. We've literally done with a stroke here now. We could go in and modify the strokes in sort of incredible ways, putting arrows in and everything. But like I said, we're just talking about the nodes for now. So how do I select a node? If I select the actual line or object that I'm busy going to want to work with to access the nodes, then I can box select, left mouse button, and just draw over the area. If I want to include the other one, I can. So once I got this here on the node, then this context menu is what comes into action. And I'll just explain each of these through. The smooth curve one on top here, I don't know if it's a replication of the other ones that we have along the way, the smooth curve buttons here. But basically I'll highlight these other ones here that you can know what's going on there. So now I'm going to just disable that. So before we work on the actual nodes, just to note that if you're hovering over a line between 2 nodes, if you left mouse button but don't release and then start to move it, you are able to create beautiful sort of dynamic curves. So it's lovely to work with this. It's real time when you work. When you let go, that's where the curve will stand. I go Control Z, or if you just click on the line and let go, left mouse button, you drop a node in that area. From that point on, if you move the node, you'd be able to modify it in that way. Control Z twice just to take it away. So here we're going to box select, left mouse button, and draw a box. So this area now, it's already a sharp node. Okay, so if I click here, it's going to do nothing to that particular node. It is already that. But here are 2 interesting things. It's convert to smooth and convert to smart smooth. The difference between the 2 of these are relative to how the actual application takes place. In some cases, they will work exactly the same. In other cases, they will produce different results. The smart smooth will often always try to go from one node to the other node in a smooth curve. So if you create a sort of a abnormal twist and you click on convert to smart curve, it will break away from that abnormal curve and just from node to next node create a smooth curve. I'll show you by example. Whereas the convert to smooth will just produce smooth on the areas that you do. Let me do it by example. First of all, if we've got a sharp node and I've selected it and I click here, it will convert that into a smooth node, which then gives me the ability to manipulate things like this. As you can see, when I move this up and down, it has a reciprocal movement of the left handle. If I move it to the side, it has a kind of a different effect there. So I make it short, make it longer. So the shortest I make it, I can flip it over also and do something like this. Okay, but here now is probably a good time to explain the difference between the smooth node. So if I go, I've now made that into a smooth node. Okay, if I click now on to convert to smart, look what happens. It forces it to keep a smart thing. It doesn't entertain these little strange curves. If I click onto a sharp, it will put it back to sharp. Even a better way of showing you this is if I click here, let go, make a node here, and then I'm going to convert it to a smooth, and then I'll just sort of see, let me see if I can create that, and then I'm going to do a little sort of a crazy twist like this. So that twist in that area is based on the fact that that node is a smooth node. Now it still has its handles on that I can fiddle with, but it pretty much gets into this area, so quite convoluted twists here. With the convert to smart, it would take it from that node, hit that node, and that node in a gentle, smart, smooth curve. Let me show you. If I click there, that's what happens. Okay, so that's principally the one use that I use the smart sort of curve node. But it practically, in other instances, if I now click it onto smooth, it will stay. Nothing different will happen there. So it works like a smooth, but when you have intricate turns and you just want to simplify, you go onto the smart one. Okay, if I select that and click back to sharp node, it will go right back to that area. Okay, let me show you one of the other features that we're dealing with now when we select a node. Before I get to that, maybe I'll just show you that you're able to select multiple nodes by drawing left mouse button and just drawing over those nodes. The other modification tools will work also. You can experiment with that, but let me show you the align tool, for example. If I let them all align to the top, look what happens. They all jump there. Say OK. If I select these nodes, let's say I select these, and just pull these here. So I select those nodes and I say let's align to the bottom. They will all shift onto the same. So the nodes operate with these features. They also are active with these features. So the point of what I'm doing now is that once you get into the basics of it, experiment, make the selection of the nodes, do a mirror, check that out. Okay, so you flipped it around and do the experiments, place it there, this does nothing, rotate it, rotate back to normal. So play around with it. It's very sort of intuitive, and you can learn a lot about getting different features out of it. But let me just show you the handles on the nodes that I think are important. So if I select this and I go to a curve, when I select on the node, I can move the whole thing around. When I select on the one side, like I showed you, if I just pull it straight, and I could possibly press shift, and it will keep this line straight. Here it works also. Shift is always to constrain. I can keep this line and move it this way. If I twist it, it's doing all of this. But this, like I said, this reciprocal movement on the other handle over here. The question is, if we want to do a modification of only one side, how do we do that? And it's relatively easy. It's a modifier key. So we go to this area. We first press Alt. So the key is Alt. And then we grab this, and you will see that keep the Alt down. You have to keep the Alt down. Once we make a movement with it, we can then let go of the mouse and then let go of Alt. Okay, so it's Alt down, make the movement, and let go of the mouse, and then you can release the Alt, because then that will lock it. It's constantly only on this side now. If I press Alt again, it really does nothing to change anything. How do I get it back to lock so that I can get the left side node to move again? I would just grab this node, and if you move carefully, you'll see this node and the center point, and not this node, this handle and the center point will change color. It turns to like a purple. There we go. Once you're at that point, you can release your mouse, your left mouse, and then if you grab it again, then they are pulled together again. Then they operate together. Same thing here. If I wanted to go, I'll go Alt, move this here, let go of my mouse button, let go of Alt, and then I have it free. When I want to lock it back or get it back again, when I move it there, if I don't want to, as I move, you'll see it turn there, but I'm still left mouse button. When I let go here, it will still stay locked. It's only when I engage, when they change colors and I let go and then start to move, it will then re-engage the other handle when they've sort of reached the level. Okay, so if you are busy designing something that you're pulling something out here, but this area now goes maybe up into that, you go Alt, move it there, let go of your mouse button, and then just tweak it further. Like you get, that's where you want it. Okay, and then you're happy with that. And then, of course, you can still move this node accordingly. This node now will also be isolated. Once you isolate the left, it will be isolated until you move and you get it into that color, let go, and then it will latch back in there again. Okay, so that's how that particular node works. If you look on this side here, if we select this and change this into a curve node, you will notice that you're able to take it in a direction here, but it will affect literally only the one side when you're moving. As you notice, there is another handle over there, but you can't grab that handle because there's nothing on this bottom side, or if I can make it on this left side, to adjust. So you can't find another handle here to move around because there's nothing over here. That's why there's only one handle, but when you move, you visibly can see two happening there. Okay, so I'm going to select this again and just go back to make it a sharp one, and this one a sharp node. Okay, let's start off with this particular node, and we're going to start with break the curve. Okay, if we click there, and I'm going to go through it to show what the features are that we are doing. So if I go break the curve, something's happened here. That's why we've had this sort of change over here. Remember, the mitre was the application of a mitre at the joint of two lines. Now the fact that this has changed here and the mitre settings are all the same still gives me an indication that these two lines are probably not joined. Something happened. So I'm going to just click on this node and move it, and we can see it's actually it's broken these two lines. So this is what happens if you're busy with the design and you want to break the lines in that area. That's what you can do. Okay, so it's got all tons of applications, but that's how it works. So if I place it back in that area and I select there, now this one is to close curve. Now, although we have this as now a separate area and that a separate area, if I select this node here and I click close curve, it doesn't accept that this other line is part of the curve. The curve would go from here all the way around to this. So from this point to that point would be the curve. So from these two edges are actually where it will close up this particular structure. So if I go close curve, look what happens. It jumps right across there. Okay, so don't mistake this for closing the 2 points. Whenever you have a structure, and I go Control Z. So if I have, maybe let me just draw another structure. If I go, let me just undo this. If I go there, and if I've got these two things going, okay, and I'm on that node and I click close curve, it's going to go to this one over here. Okay, so if I do that, can you see it goes and closes the curve, because that is, in essence, it's attached, it's making a full circle over there. So that is for close curve. However, here, if I want to join these two, I make a selection of both of them. So I've got this entire area and this area. And when I want to join them now, let me go to the node tool. This is the one that I'll click. And if we look here, if we join this successfully, we should see that this changes into a mitre joint again. So let's see what happens here if we have that area selected and I click on joint curves. There we go. So if I click off that, back on that, and if I move now, that those two have been joined. So that join works brilliantly if we have, let's say we've got a, oops, let me just Control Z, just click off this entire object and draw pen tool. If we have a structure like this, and let me break out of that and maybe get to another structure. Say we had two designs like this and we wanted these 2 points to be attached. what we could do is go into the node tool, select these 2 points, and then just say attach, and then it will join those 2 into a continuous area over there. So that's how you join 2 lines together. If we wanted to close this area now, I just needed to have one of these. If I wanted to close this into a loop, as I showed you earlier, we go close curves, and it will close it over there. Okay, so now we understand how those work. The last one that I just want to cover is the reverse curve. How do we understand this when we have the structure? Now, to know whether it is reversing or not, which is literally if the stroke goes from here through this way, from left to right to this point, if we want to reverse the direction of this line that's put in here, how do we do it? So it doesn't flip or mirror the actual design. It's just taking the actual object and reversing it. But to see it better, I'm going to go and say let's put the end of this as a arrow, so we know that it's moving from left up and down all the way around to this arrow. If we click this now, what we're going to see is this arrow is going to reverse out this way. So we click there, can you see there, the arrow is pulled out that side now. If we click again back, it will shift back this way. So that helps when you are busy doing a structure of the stroke, and you want to reverse the total process. Okay, so that will become handy in some cases. Especially, I mean, this is one typical case. If you've done this arrow, you could decide to go in and say, oh, let's make, you could do this, go in there and go in and say, make that a curve. Or if you're busy and you want to have a quick workflow, you just go, okay, select that, just send it around there. It's got other implications, but if that's the only thing that you needed to do, then it's a quick click of the button over there. Okay, so I think we've gone through these different node areas. I'll show it to you in action when I'm tracing out, and we'll come back to these principles. But this node tool now, let's cover this area quickly. So if I come in here, we've seen most of the node functionings. If I come in here now and I go to press C, which takes me to the corner tool, if I select the node, and I can do multiple selections also, I'll show you when I'm done with showing the one node. If you see on this closely, maybe I should zoom out. There we go. If I hover over that active node, you can see there's a little curve at the bottom of the pointer. Okay, just now we saw when we moved over a line in between, we saw a tilde underneath. Now you'll notice if I move over the line, there's no activation of a tilde because I am in corner mode. So it's only working on nodes to affect and create corners. However, also with this corner mode that I'm in, if you look up here, there's different types of corners. At the moment, it's on none. We can click it on rounded, and immediately you see that it changes over there. Okay, we can click it on, and it's a bit difficult to see because it's so tiny over here, but as you can see that there's some changes happening. We'll see it on when it's more accentuated, it's a bigger or thicker stroke over here. But you also have the ability to click in here and choose the radius and start doing it like this. Okay, or we go on that one and we can choose the radius and that sort of thing. So all through those there. Or you can have the option of grabbing the node, left mouse button clicking, and then starting to pull down. So instead of adjusting it on top, you're having it dynamically pulling it down with a mouse. You can still see the radius affected over there. So if I want to move these two areas down, it's as simple as doing that. Okay. So that's how we do the adjustment. And then if I want to move this back again, I have to look at where, if we click onto these areas, so if I grab these three areas, I'm able to move them all again. Okay, so the active selective node is there, and this is how we're able to make the adjustments in the curve mode. Here is a thing called bake corners. If I click bake corners, then these handles are inactive. It then bakes it in 3D world. If you bake something in, it literally takes away the ability to have these parametric modifications. You can't have these adjustments anymore in that area. So if I go back, we're literally sitting with these other little nodes now that we can't do those similar modifications through it. We possibly could do other adjustments, but we can't create the changes in corners based on these settings here or dragging it like we did. So I'm going to go Control Z just to get it back. And we could do this, we could click into the different ones and you'll see how that all comes to being. Okay, so that's the power of these curves, and it helps a lot when you're busy designing something or tracing something and you get to an edge that's got a little rounded corner. Then you don't want to click on there to create a smooth node and then try to tweak it. Often you could get away with a nice, just a parametric rounded object and shape it around there. So I'll show you that when we do the actual trace out. Okay, so that's how that works. And like I said, you don't have the ability to click on any node to create a node here or to do the bending of the line as we did when we were in the conventional node tool. To get there, I'll have to type A to get me back to node, or click on this area. I'm going to type A, and there it comes back in again, then be able to do that. Okay, I'm going to go Control Z, and this I'll just, oops, let me just select it. I'm in the node mode, node section now, so I can't do the corner, so I've got to go click on C again to get back, to activate that again if I want to get it right back. Okay, so I think we understand between the corner tool and the node tool. Just one other thing is, if I have this in a corner, I can click on here, and if I go into the node tool, I can click on here and I can still add the corner, but if I come back here, we'll also engage it to change into that area. So it automatically overrides the corner tool. So if I go back into corner, it's lost. So if I do that and I go back into the node tool and I create a sharp again, if I go back to the corner tool, those settings are lost over there. So in this case, you can see it's got the circle around it. So I know, although it's not rounded off, it's probably at 0, but it's a corner modifier. So I could just go in there, go to the node tool and just make them sharp, so it removes those corners. When I go back to the corner, you see they'll be removed. So the last one that I just want to cover here is this point transform tool. Now it has quite a few pieces of value in it, but I'm going to show you now if we can maybe draw another pen structure. Okay, so to make life nice and exciting, remember, I'll go to my node tool and I will say close the curve. Okay, so you can see now our workflow can start changing. So what that tool does, the new transformation tool, it allows us to resize, constrain resize, and rotate at the same time if we're busy doing a design. So let's say we have this, and I'm going to just Shift Control Alt just to constrain everything in that area. Now I'm going to click onto this tool. It will bring up, when I go onto this point transform tool, which is the F button, so A will be for nodes, C is for corners, F is for point transform tool. Okay, so if I'm at this point now, I can move this axis to a point that I want to, for example, either in this corner or wherever, and I can grab one of these nodes, and when I move, I am rotating around that axis, but also I have the ability to size and to rotate. So that's a great feature. In one of the other parts of managing the nodes, when you grab the rotate tool and all that, you can do similar things, but there are going to be certain applications that this tool is really handy with. Maybe let me just show you where it possibly could come in, is if you go in using a triangle, and I am just going to remove the outside. So if I've got a triangle here and I want to build a, let's say, a little bird, I could do it with this. I could go, okay, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to press Alt, and that's to duplicate. I'm not sure if you know that. Alt, drag it with left mouse button, let go, and that's it. Okay, I'll delete that. So if I have this and I want to create a bird, I'm going to go there around the beak. Okay, so I mean I can do it with this tool, there's no problem with it, but this gives you a little bit more flexibility. So if I'm going to create another triangle from it, I Alt and drag, and in this case I go onto this node tool. What I can do is also move it here. So I'm going to take this, move it on that axis, and look here. What happens is I'm not only turning and this particular object, I can turn and size it at the same time. So I could go there, Control C, Control V. I'm going to just copy and paste. I move the second one there, but I want it a little bit bigger. So you can see, although it does these rotations like the other units who do it, the other features, it has the ability to rotate, resize. If I want to keep the same size, okay, so I do Control C, Control V, which I'm just copying this actual object, or I can go Control J and it will duplicate this. Then when I turn around it, I can press the Shift key. It will constrain it on that same area, or if I go with the Control key, as I rotate, it will keep it the same size as the original one that I'm duplicating. When I let go, I then have an option to resize and rotate at the same time. So this is Control key. So if I get here now and I've got it over there, I can go Control key, it will just constrain it there. If I go Shift key, it will work along certain axes. It will go and snap to certain axes on that area. Okay, so it will take it on that axis. The other valuable part about this whole thing, I'm going to just move this, is the ability to write on this area. You could take text even, and I haven't worked too much with it to find out how the applications would differ from other stuff that we can do, like writing on a path or all that. So this is not writing on a path, it's just snapping to the object. So if we say welcome, maybe make it all in caps. So if I do that and I have this area, if I go and I maybe zoom in and I say F, when I press F, there's a line at the bottom here and there's the axis. So I could go with this line, I can kind of position it over right on the edge, and then I'll take this axis of rotation, just maybe put it on that line. So now, same principle applies when I stretch it big or small. I can go and it will write it right on this line area. So the same thing can happen if I go back. I can click it and say, so if you were busy writing something here and you go like, oh, I'm writing it, but I want it stretched across this way. You can go and change the fonts and the difference between the lettering and all that, but you want just the actual word, the proportionate word size to fit on there. Then you'd go F, oops, then you'd go, let's see, there, I'll go press F, it changes it to this feature, and then I can grab it there and just move it to the edge or even beyond the edge if I want to. But there I have the word beautifully put on that area. So we use it now, and this would be the approach. If I want to write more letters on it, I could bring it right down here and oops, just bring this down, go back to edit, double click in the end to go end. This is my story. Okay, so I got the letters there. Get back there, press F, just size it nice and big. And you can see how beautiful and fast it makes the workflow. So things like this point transformation tool will find uses in a lot of other areas. But it's just great in that you're able to rotate and size at the same time. You're able to take text. And you can experiment, try different other objects and see how they function together. But with text, you have this situation that you have the text appears on these two points where you could do the point transformation. Okay, so that's my story about these nodes. I'm going to just, as I promised, I'm going to just open up a document and show you how we can trace something. This car. So if I place a car here, and you remember that's why I'm doing it. I'm opening object, placing a car so that I could get this convert curves area. How I track out this here, it would be click there. Now I've turned it into a curve. I then go to the node tool, and literally from this point, what is good is you go, okay, this node is going to be about there. So that's about the next engagement point. You drop in a node there. That's the next one. Probably we can do one there. One over there, which is about going to be here. This one will be at the back of the car. Then I want one here. And it doesn't have to be directly opposite. It can just be anywhere because you can drag the node. Then this one will go to the bottom of the tire. This one will go about there. This one will come in there. This one bottom of tire. This one about there. And then we'll move around to about that point. So that would be fine. And then if you follow suit, you'll go boom. And don't go over the object because you kind of want to still see it unless it, just clips a little bit. So you take that one about there. There we go. Okay, so you see the idea of the quick tracking of it. I'm going to go there till about there. This to the bottom of the tire. This one to the front here. And that one will be up there. Okay, so that you can do in 15 seconds. Just pull it out there. Now if you were tracking through everything, you'd be spending all your time right from the word get-go to spend unnecessary time and energy. So now when you look at it, you go, okay, let me see what this would look like if I had to put this on let me just place another document. Let's say this background. Say I place this object on this background. Now I need to just shift the layers. Just move it down to the bottom. So if I place this object on this background, what will it kind of look like? Maybe, do a little bit of sizing here and say, okay, yeah, this is the kind of object that I want. So you verify it and you don't spend all your time tracing and not have an idea. So now when you say, okay, I'm happy with it, I think that's the kind of car I want with that background, then you can switch off the background and start working on the detail, which literally means that you go in and you get back to node position. So now it's going to be node over there, and you click a single sharp node just to pull it away. Try not to create the curve nodes, don't do stuff like create a curve node because you want to go in and start to, tweak this angle immediately. Rather just work with sharp nodes and you go, okay, that's the one edge, that's the other edge I'm working on. And then in between now, let's just pull it around and see what we can get. This node here, I maybe need to adjust or pull it a bit closer. Or you might look and say, actually, I could take it right down to this point and then pull it out. Okay, so we're kind of getting the nice curve, and then I can go onto the handle and tweak it there, and this handle and tweak it there. As I mentioned, when you have a sharp node, it only gives you one handle. If it goes, sharp node goes one area straight, there's no need for a curve handle. If I make this area now a curvy area, you'll see the other handle will appear. If I do this and I come back here, you should see another handle. Okay, now I was wondering where that handle went to. Okay, so as I made the move here, if you look at it now and you have the node, there that handle appears. If I press Control Z and take that, there we go. So that is a perfect line between this node and the next node, and there's no extra handle. The handles appear on the side. So when you have a sharp perfectly sharp node, and the one side is perfectly straight between the next node, and the other side curved, it will only have this one handle. And that's advantageous when you're busy modeling. So here I go now and I say, okay, this is the other area. So I'm going to just zoom in where I want to get to. Let's see, the light is, say, for example, there. And as I mentioned, click on there and pull it away and see what's happening underneath. You possibly could get onto that surface and then try and tweak the in-betweens. Just get the curvature. Okay, and the benefit of having that as still a straight line is that you can tweak the one on its own. Well, if this was still curved, you still had the ability to, of course, press the Alt key and do that. But now we have that set up, and let's curve out here. Okay, so as I go on here now, this node looks a bit strange because it's got a little kind of a sharp area there. So how do I get this rounded off? One of the ways is to do what we showed earlier, press C, and then you can do a rounding. It will be able to do a rounding for you. Go Control Z. That doesn't seem to be working nicely, so I'll select that and go into the node tool and change it to a round, smooth node. So you see in the smooth node it tweaked both sides here. So I can again Alt, move, see where we are, and then I can let go of the mouse so that I keep this separate here. See what's going. And while that's separate, the other one will be separate. I can just pull this out and modify it. Okay. So I hope you can see how the Alt click and move the handle and then let go of the mouse and let go of Alt and then start to tweak it can help. Because when you're working with the round nodes, the smooth nodes, you have to separate, in some cases like this, you have to separate the left and the right handles from each other. When you've got a sharp node and you're doing curvature on one side, that will work. The other side will keep itself straight. Okay, so I'm just going to go up onto the roof or to the back here just to show you how further it would be done. So here, I'd go click a straight node, see where we're going to. Maybe place it up there. Okay. Okay, so you know that to the next part of the node is always straight. So you don't go work on other areas because you're going to create curves on other areas and then it's going to mess up. So go clockwise or anti-clockwise and stick to that kind of pattern. So here we're going, and maybe at this point I'm going to click. You see there I've got a node and there I've got a node, but I want these to be, well, pretty much I can leave that for now. I'm going to click a node in between that I'm going to make a sharp node. Okay, so I'm taking it, maybe we're going to make a little offset there. Click another one here, and I want that also to be sharp. So say that was a little indent, and then I could shape this here. Okay, so if you see, if I wanted to create a thing of this nature, I was able to do that by merely working between the sharp nodes and the smooth round ones. Okay, in a case like this one is smooth. And if I just show you that rounded node thing, if I had to go with a sharp one there, if I went press C and created a round edge, that's how that will work. Okay, so that is where the rounding thing works. But in this case, I think our normal node, let's see where I'm on C, so I must press C again to disable it. So this will work enough to do a soft rounding for us. That's jumping away. Press Alt, move it, let go, and there we go. Okay. So this is the process we go through. Click there, move it down. Okay, if I click there, I'm going to move it there, and then I can round it off there. Okay, if that node I want to make it round, or I could make it smart round if needs be. Okay, so there'll be little areas like that you can decide you want to tweak. Okay, let's just pull this down here. Alt down again. Well, actually, I don't have to press Alt in this case. Okay, we get that there. Let's move this up, see where this is going to. I don't have to press Alt here because this is a sharp node. There we go. Put that down. Okay, here I have to press Alt because I want to lock the other node, let go of it, that's fine. This one I don't have to press Alt. Okay, maybe just move the node a bit closer. Okay, but you get the idea of where we're going to with this. Just use that and tweak and then start to get around. Okay, so I think that's enough for me just to show you that now you're able to trim out this, and you can then go through that process using what you've learned with all the nodes. Okay, so yeah, hopefully that helps. Have a fantastic day and God bless.